Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and welcome back to Projections, where this week we're going to be talking about, well, one of our favorite VR experiences, Rec Room. Those of you in the Rec Room community and following the game may have seen recently a new gameplay mode teased called Stunt Runner, and in fact, I was able to visit the Rec Room developers' offices up in Seattle, Washington this past weekend to play Stunt Runner, as well as chat with the developers about this new gameplay mode, the future of Rec Room, and their thoughts on teleportation versus smooth locomotion. Let's take a listen. But first, some details about this game mode. Stunt Runner is an obstacle-based race for you and up to 3 friends, 4 players max. I could best describe it as Ninja Warrior, but in VR. It's gonna ship hopefully this week with 6 maps, 6 courses that make up a circuit. You have to run through this circuit in order, and you're ranked based on your cumulative time. The courses make use of some new locomotion mechanics too. Running is really straightforward with smooth locomotion, so there's no swinging your arms like in Sprint Vector, but now there are additional moves like sliding to accelerate down ramps. You do that by clicking a directional stick. And better yet, wall running and wall jumping. Really fun. There's also climbing and vaulting with your arms, so you're scaling up those really tall walls as well. Combined with huge jump pads, moving platforms, and obstacles you have to jump over or duck under, Stunt Runner becomes a full body activity that felt to me a lot like VR parkour. I thought it was a ton of fun with plenty of potential for players to get really, really good at it. Here's Shawn and Cameron from the Rec Room team telling me more about it.
Yeah, so Stunt Runner is our obstacle-based extreme sport game show. So as you experienced your kind of running, sprinting, clambering through all these different obstacles, racing with 3 other friends, so there's 4 people, and then it's a race to get to the end and like smash this button first, and then you see your time on a leaderboard. So it's very yeah, extreme sports game showy. There's like an announcer the whole time, like screaming stuff at you in his wacky voice.
Lots of pyrotechnics.
Yeah, there's a lot of like lights and moving stuff around, so it feels very game showy.
I mean, as I was playing it, I couldn't help but think of, Ninja Warrior and those type of shows that lots of physical movements, and you guys have really allowed for extreme movements. Previously it was teleport only, and then there's free locomotion, which now is everyone's super comfortable with. But now you've added things like wall running and sliding. How did you come upon those movement mechanics, and what was going to be comfortable for people?
Yeah, so we do a lot of testing in the office. We have people that are more motion sensitive than others. So I think it was just a lot of internal testing, and then a lot of it was taking inspiration from the community and what we saw in player created rooms. So we saw a lot of people trying to jump like from platform to platform. We're like, oh, we should probably have platforms. We saw people trying to do like bounce mechanics, because in your custom rooms you can set like how high can you jump, and people were making these courses where they were jumping super high. So we were like, we should probably have a bounce pad. So a lot of it comes out of that. And then in terms of people who are more motion sensitive, we just developed a new like comfort mode. So you can go into this mode where you're looking at more of like a 2D screen, and then it's also got a 3D version, but it kind of takes you, it like gives you more of a peripheral. So it's much more comfortable for motion sensitive people as well. So if you're someone who's more motion sensitive and you're like, I don't know if I can do all these crazy things, I assure you, you can. You're just going to have to enable the comfort mode, which is, I think it's in settings, right?
And it'll prompt you, if you're on teleport and you go to the room, it'll prompt you.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a different style of vignetting.
Yeah, it's kind of like a simple way of thinking about it. It's kind of like you're playing on a TV in VR. So it kind of like removes a lot of the some things that can make some players uncomfortable.
But it's still first person.
But still first person. And all the same mechanics. You're climbing, you're wall running, you're sliding, you're clambering, crouching. But yeah, just with some accommodations to make you more comfortable.
And I assume that's a lot of accommodations you have to do for designing on flat screen gameplay as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an interesting aspect of Stunt Runner is like this one, it's going to sim ship on every platform that Rec Room is on. So it'll be day one on Quest, it'll be day one on Oculus and Vive and Index, and also on PSVR, on PlayStation with a controller, on PC desktop with a controller or mouse and keyboard, and on the phone. So we're starting to ship Rec Room on iOS. We're in beta there.
And the iPad.
And the iPad, yeah. So on all of those platforms, we've developed Stunt Runner to work simultaneously, and it's a fun experience. And you can cross-play and compete across all of those platforms.
I've only played it on the PC side, with hand presence and the grabbing of the ladders. It's a little bit of a workout.
Yeah.
When you do playtesting, do you have folks on flat screen versus folks in VR, and how do you design a map to balance and make that competitive?
Yeah, well, it's not super easy, and we kind of take Rec Room's kind of a social first experience. We're really there to have fun, and people take it seriously. And if you really want to be like, we're going to compete on score, probably you want to be like, all right, well, we're going to have everyone in VR. We're going to have everyone on a PlayStation controller. That way, it's a completely fair fight. But a lot of players, I would say the majority of players, are just there to have fun with their friends, and so the balance is good. It's probably not perfect, but you can kind of all compete and all have fun and all kind of run through the course at the same time.
And in terms of it being a race, there are power-ups I see, there are a lot of obstacles. You guys experiment with offensive power-ups, a kind of Mario Kart style rubber banding, or things to level the playing field if someone's 30 seconds behind.
Yeah, we did. We went through a lot of iterations. The way we develop everything in Rec Room is very iterative and with a lot of collaboration with the community and the players. And what we found with Stunt Runner especially was, we tried a lot of the kind of Mario Kart style power-ups and rubber banding, but what we wanted was the simplicity of this is a race. It's whoever gets to the end first. And so we do have cans of KO Cola scattered around the TV studio that you can kind of pick up and you'll kind of hear a fizz and they give you a speed boost. But yeah, that's kind of as complicated as the power-ups get. In terms of kind of combat moves, you can kind of shoulder ram people off the course, which is really, really fun. That's something we added like kind of halfway through. We were like bouncing through the air together and be like, it'd be really cool if I could like knock you off the course. And so we experimented with that and it was like awesome.
So really it's the course design that's going to help level the playing field. Because you ideally want, if people have been playing these over and over again, these 6 courses, neck and neck is the best way for this to end up.
Yeah, and just shout out to our design team. Like I'm incredibly proud of the work they do. Like, to create this cross-platform race game that's compelling and fun and competitive no matter which way you play it is like, it's no small achievement.
And the engineering team as well, because it's the base engine that allows you to create something that's a whole different genre of game than Rec Royale, than the mission quest, the party quest, in something like, how long has this been in development?
I don't know, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, something like that.
I was saying like a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah. Wow. we work pretty fast. But yeah, so a lot of like what we're doing here is like, under the hood of Stunt Runner, there's a lot of just general upgrades to Rec Room's locomotion across the board. And I think, Shawn, you mentioned this already, like, we were very inspired by what the community were doing. And so we're like, all right, hey, we're going to give you better tools to create these kind of things. So do you want to talk about the Stunt Runner UGC stuff that's coming?
Yeah, so it won't just be 6 courses. We're shipping 6, like, Rec Room made courses, but then the plan is to, like, there'll be a bunch of like player creation tools that ship with this. Just like most updates, we ship a few new tools to the maker pen, which is kind of how people create stuff in game.
Yep.
So we'll be giving them all the like wall running stuff, all the bounce pads, all the like everything that comes with Stunt Runner. So they'll be able to make their own courses, and then those will eventually filter down into, we want to have like a door in the lobby, and like the top player created courses that a lot of people are attracted to, we're gonna like show them right there in the lobby. It's like, hey, we've got our courses, but there's like hundreds of thousands of other player-made courses over here. And then we'll also have a template, a door that's like, hey, here's a template room. You can just walk right in there with your friends, get started like mixing and matching, like, oh, throw a wall there, throw like a climb. Yeah, and you're like collaboratively building a course, and then you can publish it, and then if it becomes popular, it'll hit the door, and then everyone will be like, dude, did you play like Cam's course? That one was crazy. And I think that'll be the long tail of Stunt Runner, will be all these crazy like obstacle courses that the community is making.
I mean, I almost find that more exciting because you're basically, on the surface, there's new game mode, but really you're putting out your version of Mario Maker. Right? And
yeah,
this is platforming in VR.
That is a very flattering comparison, and we'll take it.
I mean, I've seen the user-created stuff, and people are creating things that are not really quests, not really levels, like kind of a really emergent social behavior that pops up in the community. Things that we've seen with Gary's mod and other VR things, right? Like, I see that in Rec Room with these now more powerful tools. These locomotion mechanics then also trickle down to the other modes as well. Is that right?
Yeah. So there'll be rooms that have sliding and wall running now. So it'll probably go way beyond like obstacle courses and get into like some really crazy stuff that we could never predict. Every time we put out a new tool, it's just like, well, we didn't see that coming, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
What about non-static objects? I noticed in the courses you have like moving platforms.
Yeah, the animation tool.
So there's a new animation tool coming, which basically allows you to do keyframed animation of any object in a Rec room. And so you can just set up quite complex kind of motions of like platforms and things. And then in parallel with that, we upgraded the locomotion system, so it's capable of moving you on top of things, which that hasn't really been possible in Rec Room before. We've kind of had it in very limited circumstances, like the gondola and Rec Royale and the hang gliders. But now it's a general purpose thing. Like you can essentially parent your Rec Room avatar to something and have it move around, which unlocks all kinds of crazy, interesting things in the future. But yeah, like, so people are going to be able to build and use, mix and match whatever mechanics. They don't have to make a race obstacle course. One of our developers, she's big into rock climbing. And so she took the climbing mechanic and, basically in an afternoon built like a climbing gym with like the tiny little handholds and like she's climbing all around. It's like just totally rad. Like,
yeah, because it doesn't have to look like the rope walls that you climb. Like you can just assign like this wall is climbable and then just on whatever object you want.
And you can just turn on this level now allows for wall running.
Exactly.
Every vertical surface is something you can bounce off of. And
it's totally up to the room creator how they want their room to work.
These are very powerful tools. I know this year you guys have done a lot of optimizations because you're on a bunch of different platforms of different powers. Do you cap when a user is creating a level how complex the level is, and how does that scale now now that you're on multiple platforms?
Well, it's quite a complicated technical system, but we try and keep it fairly simple for the players. And so we did a lot of work early in the year to port Rec Room and bring it over to the Quest, and that was pretty heavy undertaking. The Quest is an amazing platform. We think it's an excellent headset, but it's definitely took a lot of work to squeeze Rec Room to fit onto that headset. But the nice side of that was it kind of triggered a whole bunch of optimization work in the physics and in the graphics and in the rendering. Like we essentially had to redo the rendering strategy for Rec Room. And kind of as a side effect, we're like, all right, we moved to a fully dynamic lighting model, which means in your player-created rooms, you can now just put spotlights everywhere and move them around, and you'll be able to attach that to the new animation system and like make people make these crazy nightclubs and DJ booths and all kinds of stuff. So really, one of the nice things about the player-created tools is they're very additive. So stuff that we added a year ago will now interact with the animation system, and you can use those two things together to build something more sophisticated. But yeah, so first half of the year for us was really porting the game to Quest. We really kind of were heads down. Anyone who's been playing Rec Room for a while knows that we update frequently. We used to update every 2 weeks. We now shifted to updating every week. But for 6 months there, we were kind of heads down, like, all right, we're just going to port this thing. There's a ton of work to do. But coming out the other end of that, that means it's much easier to bring it out on other platforms. So like when we were like, hey, we want to start experimenting with Rec Room on a touch controls on a phone. Kind of all the optimization, the engine was ready to be like, just like, hey, it kind of works. Now it's really about getting the input right.
But from a design perspective, you're still VR first. VR is
yeah. I mean, I think we are. So Rec Room, obviously, like the DNA of it is social VR. That's really where a lot of that initial magic is, and still where like a lot of our creators work. But we really embrace, like, what we care about is humans. What we want is human brains in Rec Room interacting with each other. And so we're really interested in bringing Rec Room to as many platforms as possible. We're in for the long haul on VR. We love VR, and we love being part of the development of the technology and of the community. But yeah, we think there's a really interesting Rec Room that's on a phone, for example. And so honestly, the team's grown a lot over the last year with a lot of this in mind. Like, so we're going to walk and chew gum at the same time.
There are a lot of Quest users out there right now. They enjoy playing Rec Room. I'm sure you guys have those statistics. I don't want to say that's the lowest common denominator in terms of rendering, but obviously you're pushing the limits of that headset. Are there more optimizations you feel like could be coming on Quest, or where do you feel like the cap? Is it player number because of network, or is it effects? Is it size of room? Because
it's a complicated question. It's honestly kind of all of the above, like because it's a real delicate balance of like definitely having a lot of people networking a bunch of stuff is a challenge. On a what is essentially a mobile device on your head. Rendering can be a challenge. Physics can be a challenge. Honestly, it's all a challenge. Like none of it is easy mode. There are, there's definitely some content that we built for Rec Room early on. Like for example, Rec Royale. We just never had in mind a platform like the Quest, really. So we're still not quite sure how we're going to squeeze it on. We're like, we have some crazy plans. Like, so we have some interesting ideas and pathways where we can bring all of Rec Room to Quest, but it's not really something we can talk about.
Okay, but you're thinking about it, obviously. There's
definitely thinking about
engineering solutions and creative solutions.
Well, as Shawn said before, like we talk to the player community a lot, and definitely they tell us we would like to see more content on Quest. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's definitely top of mind for us.
And obviously, you expect the hardware over time to iterate and get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't want to pigeonhole yourselves in design where it's for this generation of hardware.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of like it's all a big balancing act, and VR is developing all the time. It's getting better and better. So I think it's going to be really interesting over the next couple of years. Like what does Quest look like in a few years' time? I think is going to be really interesting.
Yep. And so first half of the year, engineering, platforms. Now it sounds like with Stunt Runner content, gameplay. Can we see effort? I don't know how the teams are distributed here, but like people want more. Quest, lowercase Quest, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Not
right?
Oculus Quest, but Rec Room Quest.
Yes, Rec Room Quest.
Yeah. So the second half of the year, we're definitely going to get back into the swing of things in terms of you're going to see more like Rec Room original stuff. There's nothing we can announce after Stunt Runner, but there'll certainly be more like Rec Room original stuff coming. So stay tuned is what we would say there.
I mean, how do you choose what to do as a company, as a team, right? Is it mechanically driven? You want to experiment with these? Is it tool first, or is it, games and themes first? And what's that direction?
It's a little bit of everything. A lot of it comes from like what we see players trying to do, and they're like, oh, we desperately want to do these obstacle courses, and like we love these different like locomotion mechanics, and it's like, okay, well maybe we should incorporate that into what we do next. There's a lot of like players that want to make their own quests, and like they're like, oh, they're struggling to write their own AI and make boss mobs and stuff, and they've done it basically. So like that's one thing that we want to get out at some point. We've told players this, like we'd love to get you some like enemy AI or just like drag and drop enemies. So it's really, it comes down to like how many of those things do we feel like we can fit into one idea, and then we're like, well, this hits so many points that we should probably do something in this area, and then it's just like weighing those options, basically.
You also have a great community, right? You have people who are creating some awesome things like dioramas and fan-made things, and as Rec Room grows and different platforms, do you find that it's the new user base? I mean, you have tools built in for content moderation and user privacy and stuff like that, but is that something you guys are happy with now, or do you find that that's an ongoing relationship and challenge?
Like the community tools in
community
general?
exactly.
Oh, they're always evolving. It's like an arms race, right? It's like the trolls and hackers will try to do something, and then we're like, all right, we need this new tool, especially on the back end to like on our admin site to monitor what's going on in game. So it's always evolving. There's a lot of new stuff, especially when we ship a new feature. Like we'll ship like messaging, right? So players can now message each other in game or on like rec.net, which is our like social site. So there's always new moderation features that come out with all the new stuff. So it's just a constant design effort to make sure like the players are safe and that it's a good experience, and that it matches in with the reporting system and all the stuff people are used to already.
Yeah, we're never happy. Like we put a ton of effort into that stuff, but as Shawn said, it's like it can always be better. I think it's something, as long as Rec Rooms exists, we're going to be investing in those tools.
And a lot of people are just playing with their friends and kind of self-moderating.
Yeah.
And it works for those group of 4 friends or 6 friends who
well, and that's something we've been kind of like, so I mean, absolutely, just let me co-sign, we're blessed with just an amazing community that inspires us every day. And I know that sounds like, blowing smoke, but it's just true. Like we come in every day, and on the company Slack, someone will have just found some room or some fan art or some comment, and we're just like, these people are amazing. We love our community so much. And so we're blessed both with a great community, but like it's also a community that's been growing. It's not the summer of 2016, when we first shipped Rec Room, and it was like, essentially a handful of early adopter VR players. It's now a much, much broader community. And so something we're kind of leaning into that I think you'll see us kind of shipping some meaningful features to support before the end of the year is, well, the kind of big umbrella term we use for it is clubs, which is essentially allowing sub-communities to form within Rec Room because, like people want to hang out with their friends, and like some people are like really into paintball, or some people are like really into just building stuff with the Maker Pen, and some people are just really into hanging out and telling jokes and being crazy. And, and those communities intermix and everything, but there's something really nice, I think, about kind of allowing centers of gravity to form and just kind of being like, Rec Room, we used to say internally a lot, Rec Room is one big happy family. We have VR players playing on every platform. We got screen players in there. We got everyone, everyone's mixed in together, which we love as an aspiration. But I think, as we evolve and as the community grows, we're kind of moving to a world that we call many big happy families, So there's kind of like lots of like centers of gravity, and people can kind of come into Rec Room, find what they're attracted to, and kind of go and, orbit that planet.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on the launch, soon-to-be launch of Stunt Runner, hopefully, as we publish this video. And thank you guys so much for having me here. It's great to check in.
Yeah, thanks for coming to hang out.
Thanks for having us.
So I found that conversation to be super interesting, and I want to thank the Rec Room developers, now called Rec Room Inc. They've changed their name from Against Gravity because they're all in on Rec Room. I want to thank them for inviting me up there to their offices to preview this game mode and also to have that conversation with them. I only got to play Stunt Runner once through all 6 of those courses, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I also think that there's going to be a small selection of players who are going to get really, really good at this game mode. And so there might be a big skill differential between new players and experienced players, and there aren't a lot of tools for rubber banding. It's not going to be like Mario Kart, where someone who's in last place has a chance to really catch up unless they get really good at these maps. That's my only concern with it right now. I'm looking forward to jumping in with some of our friends, with Jeremy, Kishore, and Will, and then learning the maps together and getting good at these maps, these courses together. What's more exciting for me, though, is the potential of the course creator and the new locomotion mechanics that they introduced with Stunt Runner that will then be made available to all the user-generated content. What the team over there have basically created are level creators that can be social. People can be in the same room together in templates and place objects and animate the ramps. They basically create a VR platformer. And what does a Mario-like platformer in VR feel like? We don't know yet. And so there's a lot of potential out there for you in the Rec Room community to create that. And I can't wait to play it. I also got a chance to preview their new iOS beta, and anyone out there can actually jump into that beta right now. There are details in the description below, and I'm really impressed with the way that they've tapped into some of those iOS touch controls, so you can do things like gestures, like wave and use swords and play through a full Rec Room quest even though you're on a mobile device like an iPad. They've also tapped into the front-facing camera sensors and the face sensors, so you'll be able to emote more comfortably and naturally when you're playing alongside other players in other platforms like VR. And I was assured that VR is still their primary platform going forward. Well, I'd love to know what you think of Stunt Runner once you get a chance to play it. It will come out hopefully tomorrow if everything goes according to plan, and we'll be on the servers as well running through those courses. Thanks for watching this week, and we'll be back next time with more VR. See you then.